Welcome back to the artist always known as Alejandro. I am Alejandro, and it is my birthday weekend. Ooh, yeah. And today, July 11th, when this video drops, Superman premieres in theaters. It's a new Superman movie starting the DCU in cinemas. So, what better way to celebrate on this day than to draw the Man of Steel himself, Superman? So I've never drawn him for you, and I figured I was waiting for this particular day to finally do a Superman video of me sketching the great hero that he is from Krypton. Here I actually am starting off in pencil again, and this time I'm actually using like a gray to have the feeling of a pencil. I just wanted to block out shapes, kind of get the form of Superman that I wanted. I want to show his whole body. He's got a great classic costume, and I wanted to show him flying in a way, but show his whole costume. I don't want him like flying towards you with kind of like my Rasnor sketch so you don't see the whole costume. I want to see the whole body of Superman in a heroic flying pose. So I just had this kind of idea of him with his fish clenched, but he's going to be in a pleasant mood. He's going to be smiling towards us. This is just the initial sketch. Just trying this out. Just want to get some kind of shape and form of how I want the whole thing to go before I get deeper. Just some basic shapes of soups. I can call them soups. I've known them all my life. Can't say I remember my first Superman memory. I don't know if it was a comic book. Might have been the Super Friends. I don't know. Here I jumped a little bit just because I was drawing this leg bent. Like, no, that's not going to work for me. I want to have this leg extended and the right leg bent. I think that'll work much better. Obviously, you can see I am running out of room. But that's okay. I'm just giving a little blocking. You know, we always can shrink it down and move it around. I just wanted some idea of his pose. The basic pose I have right now is going to change as we progress, because it's let's just plot along, because I know this is not going to stay. Okay, so now I've obviously lightened my first pencil layer. Now I'm going to that lovely green pencil layer where I can do a little more detail of Superman's face. I'm going to do that, as you know, from my videos. Did my little basic circle with the crosshairs where I want his eyebrows and eyes to fall. I'm going to try maybe a little super serious, but I want him to look heroic, but not too mean, because he's Superman. He's happy his movie's dropping today. Hopefully it's worthy. But as I was saying, man, my earliest memories of Superman might have been the Super Friends, but who knows? It was cool seeing him on the Super Friends, but I knew Superman existed before that, so to see him teamed up with all the other guys in a cartoon, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Wendy and Marvin and the Wonder Dog, and then eventually by Zan, Jaina, and Gleek. It was cool to see them in a cartoon. I might have seen the George Reeves TV show in repeats, syndication. But I don't know, maybe I did get some comic books, back then. Comic books were just given to us because they were considered kids' things, and they gave them to us, and we read along for the artwork mainly. We weren't really interested in the story, but we can kind of put together things that are going on. Well, later in the 70s, I've mentioned this before, there were these power books and records. So they had stories that you could follow along with some illustrated comics that voice actors narrated. This mouth. And I'm trying to line up the mouth and usually say the corners of the mouth line up with where your pupils are. It's just rough. Just trying this out. But yeah, those Power Books and Records, they had a few illustrated ones that had, sometimes there's one at a 45 and you had to just read along and it flipped the record over when you got to a certain point. And then they reprinted it. The curl in his hair. Does it go this way or that way? Well, I know we have the curl in the hair. It's iconic. The new guy kind of has it. He looks like he's going to be a very cool Superman. Yeah, those eyes. Eyes and me. But I took a little more time with the eyes. I really wanted the pencil sketch to be as close to possible as in the inking phase. So this way, the inking phase will go a little more smoothly. Just block this out here. So they had some initial Power records that... There was one called Alien Creatures that had a comic book to follow along. Not the best produced alien creatures. They were just like these silver bullets that were falling from the sky. Not once going through anybody. It's a kid's picture book. They didn't want it to be too violent. Silver bullets. It's kind of freaking scary, man. But they came through the walls, ceilings, and all that, cars, but they never killed anybody. Because they had fled the planet Zoink. Yeah, according to that script. Kind of crudely put together. Yeah, that S symbol is very iconic. Had to get it right. A little erasing, that's how it works. Got to keep trying. But there's some other ones that didn't have a comic book. The same part of those Alien Creatures producers, not the best. Then his Power Records got a little more advanced and probably were making some more money. This is not working here. They got some better voice actors and a little better stories to go along with it. And some more comics. They actually had Lex Luthor in one of them. And Mr. Mxyzptlk. Yeah, I had to use some reference here. I haven't drawn Superman in a long time, and I was forgetting that need fix some of the S here. Like I said, I want it as close as possible to where it's going to be in the ink phase, so I don't have to do a lot of work later on. Hopefully you do the same thing. Just erase and move on. Just bear with me. I had to look at a Superman book because I was drawing the S wrong. It's very important. Got to get that S right. The S is a little different in this new Superman movie. It actually kind of resembles the Kingdom Come Superman. I wonder if that means they're going to address that in the future. That would be amazing. There we go. Pull back and let's work on Superman's left arm. So yeah, I love listening to those Power Books and Records all the time. They even had an origin story of him with another guy doing Superman's voice. That was the same guy who did Batman's voice in those Power Books and Records. He was all over. Someone said, I think his name is Robert Johnson. Hey, if you're out there, oh man, please contact me. I would love, if you're still around, to chat with you about those Power Books and Records. They are my childhood, and I have great memories of them, and you guys did incredible voiceover work. Yeah, let me try this fist here. I was looking at my own hand. Might as well. I mean, it's right in front of me. Although I have to kind of stop and pause because I am right-handed. Okay. Well, then, of course, 1978, they told us, you're going to believe a man can fly. And brought Superman to the big screen with Christopher Reeve playing the iconic role. And boy, oh boy, he did such a great job. He became Superman. It was like, wow, here he is. This is the guy. And he got third billing. underneath Marlon Brando and Gene Hackman. Brando being, of course, Jor-El, his Kryptonian father, and Gene Hackman being Lex Luthor. No one knew who Christopher Reeve was. But there it was. People kind of cautioned him about taking the role, but he saw the humanity in it and wanted to give it a whirl. And the thing he did, he set the standard playing Superman. Funny story. Obviously, being a Superman fan, I wanted to see that movie as soon as possible. I know it was released in winter, and I was really eager to see it, but for some reason it took a while. And then my mom and I were driving home from Cleveland, I believe, Ohio, into Michigan, and she saw that it was playing in a theater, and it was in the middle of a snowstorm, and there was one seat left, and I sat in it while my poor mom had to stand in the back of the theater for over 2 hours. What a good mom. She knew I wanted to see that movie so bad. But geez, you could have waited a few more days, Mom. You didn't have to stand the whole movie. That must have been murder on her after driving all that time and she had to stand. Well, maybe it was kind of a relief, but I was very grateful she brought me to see that wonderful movie. Christopher Reeve bringing Superman to life. Directed by the late, great Richard Donner. And the wonderful, iconic, memorable movie score by John Williams. Man, oh man, he crafted the perfect theme for Supes. All right, let's see. Looks all right. Yep, take away that. There's the green. Now, in between this, now I fixed things. I made his leg a little smaller. It was too big. And that right arm, the pose was just not working for me. Yeah, that arm, I tried a few different things. It took me a while until I did this. So I had to stop recording because I didn't want to waste your time with that. As you can see, I made his cape a little bit towards the back on his right side. Just wanted to do that. Fix the S a little bit. Fix the curl in his head. Yes, it was going the wrong way. Had to look at my reference, so it kind of curls towards his right side. Yeah, it made that leg smaller. It was just like Flintstone-sized legs. Don't need that. He's not Bizarre. He's the real Man of Steel right here. Yeah, much better. So, yeah. You know how it goes. All right, let's ink. And I realized quickly his head's a little too wide. So let's make it a little... You can see I'm just going a little bit more inside where I had my pencil because it's just too wide. Don't need it to be that thick. And so I think during maybe next year after the movie came out in 1979, I dressed up as Superman. My mom made me a Superman costume from scratch. It came out so good. Initially, and I have a picture of this somewhere, there was a Superman cutout mask, and I put it over my face in my Superman costume with my big furry curls popping out the sides. Then I soon realized I don't need this mask on. I'll just show off my face. We had a Halloween party in costume, my friends and I, in Michigan, at a McDonald's. And I was in my Superman costume. And they took me into the kitchen since I was the guest of honor. Ooh, I got to see how they made the burgers and fries. It was fascinating. As a kid, I mean, wow. This is a place I come to eat my fast food. This is McDonald's. This is one of my places to see how this happened. Who knew that in my teens I'd be actually working at a Burger King, their competitor. Not so glamorous, but hey. Getting the smile right. I had to work on that too. You know, I want them to have just a little bit of a smile, not too grainy, not too toothy. Just pleasant, like, hey, I see you. And then, of course, Superman 2 came out, which was a really big deal. Seeing him go up against the Phantom Zone villains, thinking they were invading planet Houston. And the epic battle they had, I was like, yeah, now this is awesome. Superman's taking on people with his powers. I love it. And then he gave up his powers to be with Lois. Then he had to get him back. Ugh. Crazy story. Then there was Superman 3. Richard Pryor. Oh, brother. That's when it took a turn. Not in a good way. You're trying to do some kind of Brainiac thing, and that just did not work. Maybe there'll be a Brainiac finally on the big screen in some other installments. And then, I think the one part I did like about Superman 3 is when he fought himself. You know, he was like a moody and angry and transformed Superman, and he had to take on the pure essence of Clark Kent in this junkyard until he brought himself back. Yeah. And then, of course, they did Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, which is god-awful. It's best to be avoided. Check it out if you must. You know, it's worth seeing just to see how crazy it is. Worth, I don't know. It's just interesting to see. I don't know if it's worth it. The last movie that Christopher Reeve does as Superman, it was just a big mess. It had some potential, but man, it just got taken over by the wrong people. And even bringing back Gene Hackman as Luthor just did not work. But in the comic book world, Superman went through the crisis on Infinite Earths. Earth 2 Superman was stuck in a bubble. Well, they redid Superman's origin. John Byrne. Funny enough, going back to the first Superman movie, I made my own little Superman comic in, what would that have been? Like 3rd or 4th grade? Yeah, I drew it up as best I can from memory of the movie. A shortened version, of course. I don't have it anymore, but I remember drawing that. Now, at that time, I was really hardcore DC when I was a kid. In my younger years, it's like I didn't like anything Marvel. I was a big Marvel fan earlier, but then I became all DC until I reached my teens. But then, it wasn't like I kind of like Marvel more, but I still like DC stuff. I drew Superman a lot. And, of course, when Mego came out with the action figures, like Captain America, they, of course, did a Superman one. Fabric costume. They had a good sculpt of him. And I think he has plastic boots. His cape. Oh, boy. I think his cape was plastic, if I remember. But I also remember not too long after they had a 12-inch Superman. If I have he was big. I think his hair was a little fuller cut. And I think his cape was cloth. Really, really cool rendition of him. Do you have any other Superman action figures? I don't know. Any other toys? I don't remember. Obviously, when I started getting into my teen years, the only things I really collected were G.I. Joe action figures. And the Superman cartoons were kind of dwindling. They were doing superpowers and all that. I just kind of missed those. Might have seen a few, but I kind of stopped those. I was all into G.I. Joe. Well, then in the 90s, Superman died. Yeah. They decided to kill off Superman in a huge deal back in 92, if I recall. He fought Doomsday, this horrible monster that beat the crap out of everybody. Superman held his own against him, but they both killed each other. It was a big deal. The comic book was selling like hotcakes. And then, not so long after, they brought him back. Took a while. They had to have 4 other guys possibly being him take over, but the real Kal-El was back in the 90s with his crazy mullet. Then he was back with the Justice League, like the classic lineup in the comic books. Then something happened where he became Superman Blue. That was weird. Then there was Superman Red. I don't know who that was. I didn't really read those comics, but Superman Blue, he was very, very crazy costume and powers. I didn't see Smallville. I heard it was a good show. I'm sure it was. What else was Soups into back then? Really didn't do much in the 90s. Maybe Smallville was it? Well, Smallville started in the 2000s. There was a Superman animated series. I really didn't watch that. It was around the same time as Batman, the animated series. But even when Smallville came out, then they had an awesome Justice League cartoon. Wow. Did a great job. Great voice actors. I think the guy who did Superman's voice in the animated series came back. And he had a great lineup. And some cool cameos. And then even they continued to went to Justice League Unlimited and made it like this little army of superheroes. It was awesome. Really one of the best cartoons ever made. He took a lot of care and pride into that. So I've done my line work. Let's see. Take with a pencil. Looks pretty solid. I'm digging it. Just got to erase the lines, so I'll do that off camera. And move on to Superman's. I want to give him some eyes. I'll do that on my ink layer. Just wanted to do that little ink layer. So I have a separate details layer, which is what makes sense. I think I'm doing the 3. Still using the G pen for those layers in his cape. Get those little cape ruffles. Then there was Superman Returns with Brandon Routh playing him. He was a good Superman. But the story was just kind of a mess. The Super Son. Kevin Spacey was a good Lex Luthor. Kate Bosworth was a decent Lois. But potential just got lost. So it wouldn't be, what was that, 2006? Yeah. So it wouldn't be until 2013 where we saw Superman on the big screen again. This time with Henry Cavill, or is it Cavill? Taking over in Man of Steel. Minus the red trunks. Yeah, and DC launched the new 52 around before that, and that might have influenced the look. And, I can kind of guess, red trunks seems a little silly, but it's Superman's costume. It's an iconic look. I mean, it looks silly to have a cape and then no red trunks. I mean, Henry Cavill did a great job. He brought a lot of humanity to the role, too, and strength. Man of Steel was a good movie. It just seemed a little, a bit much at times, but it is a good movie. Definitely worth seeing. And of course, 3 years later, there was Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. We had Batfleck, Ben Affleck as Batman, going against Henry Cavill's Superman for whatever reason. So you got to save Martha. Groan. Why did they do that? It does seem a little bit silly that Superman was so easily taken out by Batman. I mean, Batman's about to fire the kryptonite gun at him. Superman could have melted it with his heat vision, but no, he flies right into it and gets doused with kryptonite. Come on, Superman, you move faster than a speeding bullet. Get with the program. But they had to add something dramatic. And then, spoiler alert, he did die in that one. But then in Justice League, they brought him back. But then that was a groan. This is Justice League in 2017 that had Batman again, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, Ezra Miller's Flash, and Cyborg, and Aquaman. Pretty bad movie. The infamous Superman with the digitally removed mustache of Henry Cavill. That caused controversy. Like, I would have never known unless someone brought it up to me, that because he did look weird, but I'm like, I don't know why. But he had to grow the mustache for Mission Impossible Fallout, and he had to reshoot that scene. I'm like, we're not going to shave off your mustache. We need it, man. So let's digitally erase it. It was very cool when they made Justice League. Well, it was originally called the Snyder Cut because of the director Zack Snyder, but then it was just officially named Zack Snyder's Justice League. The movie was 4 hours, but wow, they improved upon so much. So much they left out, and it expanded the story and really brought a lot of epic storytelling, wild action sequences. Everything made a little more sense, and things were bound together a little. Just, yeah, much more of an improvement. The only complaint is that it was full frame. I don't know why it would be full frame. At least make it 185:1, if you know what I mean. Yeah, let me make these little lines for where he's in the shade of, his foot is in the back of his knee. It's weird to do these shade lines because it's like there's so many you can do. Normally, when I do this by hand, I'm just kind of scribbling the pencil around, but it's much harder in the digital realm. And then Henry Cavill made a brief appearance at the end of Black Adam, telling him to chill out or I'll still have to answer to him. That could have been an interesting team up, but I guess we'll never see that. So now we've got David Cornswap taking over. James Gunn at the helm. We'll have to see. I'll see it eventually. Maybe a birthday gift to myself. Let me just draw some lines coming there. I wanted to make them a little darker near his body, and then just a few there, just to give it some flow. And then, of course, the tips. I always got to add these lines at the tips. But if I go outside lines, it's fine. I can erase it, just like you would on paper. There we go. And let's add a little bit of lines for the little belt buckles. And there's some lines coming off there. Some possible shade. Getting the feel. Oh man, I hope you're having fun drawing Superman. And I've been drawing him all my life. But it's fun. I really haven't drawn him in so long. It's a good refresher course, and I was purposely saving this drawing until the movie came out. And since the video drops the day the movie drops, why not? It's a perfect blend. You can watch my drawing video and then watch the movie, or vice versa. Watch it several times. I'll appreciate it. It was fun doing this. So this is the pose I really, he's just kind of flying. He's ready for action, but he's not ready to beat someone down. But he can if he wants to, but he's just showing he's ready for truth, justice, and the American way. And that's it for the details. All right, and I just playing with his hair here. Yeah, I forgot to record myself doing his hair, but sorry, I get so into it sometimes, especially with the little details. But here you can see me doing some more lines. It's just kind of playing around with the lines. Superman's got that black hair. Always has. So I'm just adding a little more details to this. Just the same pen. Just a G pen. I have it at 4, I believe. And just filling in the stuff. It's kind of fun. You get to play around and just kind of add texture to the hair. And just a few more strands here, a few more strands there. Make it darker in some spots. Especially around the ears. Yeah. Maybe add a little more. Yeah, let's add some more into the top. Oh, it just occurred to me that the theme that Hans Zimmer did for The Man of Steel, that's pretty rocking. I like that. Very driving. I wonder what well, I keep showing commercials for the new one with a different version of the John Williams score. Let's see how that goes. So yeah, I made the hair on a different layer, as you can see, and I'm glad I did that. Just sticking with that, pulling back a bit. I think I just want to add a little bit of shade underneath his chin, some of that. The light source will be coming off the right side of his face, or the left side of the screen, if you want to be technical. Maybe just a little bit in the cape. Yeah, a little bit of shade there. It's good when you have the small brush. You could do a little bit more. But, sometimes less is more. Yeah, there's enough. Just a little bit on the cape. Yeah, a little bit there. Yeah, don't want to get too much. I could add some more, but I think I'm all right. I was like, maybe some, lines there, but no, I'm good. Just going down this way. Maybe I'll make it in the same direction as the lines on his underoos. Did any of you have underoos, dudes or dudettes? I had Superman underoos actually last year. Yeah, that's when I did it. But I also had one when I was a kid, yeah. So had the Superman t-shirt and Superman underwear. Got to do a little racing here. It's fun. I was a Superman fan. Just doing a few little checks here. Make sure to get rid of these erase lines and move along to making the lines thicker, because I did have these at 4 and I want to make them a little thicker. But first, let's add some black to his eyes. We'll fill it in, and now we're going to thicken these lines with that line tool. And then, just thicken them, make them a little more pronounced. I like this. So this usually means we're one and done. But since it's my birthday, I'm going to give a birthday gift to you. For the first time, as the artist always known as Alejandro, I'm going to color in one of my drawings for you. Yes, I am. That's my birthday treat from me to you. So that's what we're going to do right after we thicken these lines. I've decided to do that with Superman. It's a special day. So let us begin. I was playing around with colors, and this is a good skin tone. There's the color wheel to your left of the screen. And what I'm doing, I took some flesh color from another drawing. I was trying to play around with this off screen and it wasn't working. So we'll do it for his fist. Got to zoom in a little bit more. As you can see, I'm using a fill tool, and it doesn't completely fill in some little spots here. But I have different layers to the right. I've added the layers underneath his ink layer, as you can see. They're all lined up there because I'm going to have different things going on in different layers. I'm not going to have all of his skin because you'll see I'm going to do some shading too. So I want to concentrate on some red for his iconic S. And I don't want to do colors within it because I want those on another layer. Coloring is all about layers here. And I'm doing his belt in a little darker yellow, but just the buckle right now. This is how I do it, layers. And I think I'll do the red boot. Make that the top part of this top layer. And then there's that little, you hit your Alt key and you could get a droplet and it'll capture the same color you use. So it's very easy to take colors from other sources and then just drop them in. Layer 1 is done. So as you can see, that's that. I don't want to add colors underneath that. You'll see what I'm going to do. We're going to move on to layer 2. And we're going back to his skin. So I'm going to do the little droplet and do his neck. Fill in that spot. But I'm not going to do the cape by his neck. I don't want those on the same layer because when I start shading, they could bleed together and I don't want them on the same layer. So I'm going to color his eyes a nice super blue. Christopher Reeve had blue eyes, so why not? Now let's see, what should I do? I'm doing that little droplet. I'm going to do the yellow and the S. Why not? So it's just the fill tool. It's the one that says refer other layers. That's the one I pick. That's what I used in Meow Meow. I'm going to do his belt too. Why not? Just the yellow part. And I think that might be it for this layer. Yeah, that's enough. Moving on to the next layer. I'm going to take that and do the cape around his neck. But not the cape near his wrist, because you see the blue part of his costume is going to be before it. So anything that's like a layer below, you want to do that on a layer below. But I did his trunks. And I took the background out because if you could see, his eyes would be transparent. So you actually have to put the white. There you go. Pick the white color and do that. So that's on this layer. See? Bang. Just want to make sure I go back and forth here just to make sure I have the right stuff on the right layers. All right, I'm looking to do the blue now. I just kind of played around and this is a good blue. This is a good blue. I'm going to stick with that. And just do that leg on this layer. No on that layer. I want that on a different one. So I'm going to add some more. And these are all raster layers. There we go. So that's on the layer below. And I think I'm going to do these parts of the cape now. Add one more layer, which will be the boot underneath his knee on his right leg and the inside of the cape, which I'll make a little darker. And fill that in. Done with that part. I still want to play around with his hair, and I'm going to do something a little differently with his hair, something I've never done before. Since I had the lines on a separate layer, I am going to just fill in this in a blue. Now that looks horrible, doesn't it? But once I add that back, look how cool that is. And when you go wide, see, it kind of pops a little more. I was thinking a darker blue, but it gets kind of lost in his black, in his hair, the black lines. So that's done with that. All right. Now, what I want to do here, this is how the shading part will work. But first, I'm going to select all these layers that have the color, and I'm just going to give them a color code. So I know they're all the color layers. What I'm going to do is add a layer above each layer. This way I know they're not marked with a color, and I know what I'm going to do. This is how I learned shading from someone on YouTube. I don't know what the artist's name was, but this is a great way to shade. There's a clip the layer below. See, there's that pink yellow, there's like a pink tab over there. And now this will refer to the very first layer. you're going to color, just making sure. We're going to color, do the shading here on his face. And what I normally do, I'll just select that same thing and just bring it down a few notches, play around with it. And I use the airbrush tool. The airbrush tool works wonderful. Just give you a little sample here. See? Now, what I'm going to show you now is if you take away the clip layer, see, if you don't have that selected, you'll go outside the line. When you select this tool, if you color outside the line, look, it won't go into the next layer. It stays on the layer you want it on. That is an incredible tool. So glad I found it. You're just getting a little shade near the eyebrows, stuff to the edge of his face, kind of accentuating those lines like on the cheekbone, maybe a little bit under his nose, maybe. Don't want it to look too strange. Am I going to the next? Yeah. Since I have this tone, I'm going to clip that layer and then work on his shade underneath his chin. So see, it will not go to the red. It won't bleed over to the first layer. And make it change the airbrush size to accentuate those detail lines. Pretty cool, right? This helped me so much. Let's see, what am I going to do now? Yeah, let's continue with his hands. Do a little bit there on the knuckles. A little bit there. Don't need to do much. Here, I'll make just little details here. His fist's going to be just a little bit. You know it's there. And we're keeping this simple. I know, pros do a lot more. But for this, it's a nice simple shading. I'm going to do the red now. Bring that down a few notches, get a little deeper color. And I'm just accentuating a little bit on, where the chest is on the symbol. That's it, just a little bit. You don't want to take away from his symbol, but there's a chest underneath there. Giving that little bit of shade, see? Let's see, let's do the belt. Go down a notch or two. And add a little bit of, I'm going to go a little like that. Nice. Just to give it something and those little accents. So that's one of the things I like to do. Where you see the details and the abs and the muscles, we're going to shade them in. And it's just going to give that drawing a little more pop. And the airbrush is wonderful. It just does the right. You can make it bigger, change the size, and just kind of cradle the edge of it. Yeah, I got to make it a little smaller here. There we go, much better. Boop, that line there, and looking pretty good. All right, let's move to that second. I'm just making sure I got everything. Now let's move. Let's see what I need to do on this layer. There's a lot of yellow, and there's red on his cape. So let's move on to the cape. Oh, I want to do his eyes first. So I had to create another layer, and then I'm doing the airbrush just white to give his eyes a little pop. See? There we go. All right, moving right along. What am I going to do now? Let's go yellow. Okay, we're going to add some shade to the yellow of his belt. So yeah, it's always good to have these are raster layers. They're all raster layers underneath your vector layer. Just keep checking to make sure I'm on the right layer. See, now the little yellow going with the S in the chest, so the chest blends into the red and the S. Nice. Ooh. Do this. There we go. Moving right along, got a clip to the layer below, and we're on this one that has the red in his cape. So let's select that, bring it down, and zoom into the cape a little bit here. There we go. See? Look at that. Just adds a little something. It's fun. I enjoy doing this. It just gives it a little more pop. Like I said, if I ever get more advanced, I'd love to show you that. But coloring is a little time consuming. As of right now, this is not my full-time job. So that's why I don't really color in the drawings. It takes a lot of time to draw and edit these videos. So we'll see in the future if I do more coloring. We may have to work out something here. Yeah, looking good. Added some to his trunks. There we're on the blue layer. Alright. Bring it down a little, make it a little darker. There we go. It just gives you a little more something. So if you decide to do this digitally, there's just another tool in the bag of tricks to give your drawing a little more dimension. I gotta get smaller for the chest. I'm playing this one pretty close to the chest. Hey, that's a Batman line. Yeah, I'm sure there's more advanced techniques, but hey, for now, this is good. Just fill in these a little bit with your airbrush tool. The airbrush tool does this great job as a layer. It's just like a nice soft brush that comes across, and I love how it looks on here. Yeah, it's too pronounced. Nice. What else? I think I got everything on this layer. I'll make it a little darker under there because it's going to be hidden. And now, yes, the leg is on this layer. Let's give him... let's try that again. Maybe it's just a little lighter. Don't need it to be too dark. Yeah, there we go. The knees. Side, the little shin action. I'm going to make it a little bigger when I do just the side of his leg. The whole side I'm going to do. There we go. Let's move on to the next one. Clip that baby. What do I have here? Oh yeah. Keeping it blue, so it's good. Let's make it a little smaller for the details here. It's fun, right? It's a good way to spend your weekend drawing and coloring Superman. Hey, if you want to do this with pencil or watercolors, I don't know what you're paying with. I mean, you're going to oils. Hey, I commend you, but digitally, this is what I'm doing. See, even Superman has a little more. There's a little more oomph. Kryptonite ain't stopping his drawing. Yeah, I went there. Alright, now we're just doing a little bit of darkness on the edge of the cape to go with this. Not too much. Now, the final layer. What we're going to do is the boot, a little darker. And now I need to go darker with the red because we're inside the cape, and that's usually more shades. Look at that. Just gives it a little bit more dimension. Hey now. Good accents there, Soups. Just doing a little once over. I think I want to do something with his hair. Maybe give his hair a little gloss. Sheen. Why not? He is the Ubermensch. The Superman. So we'll go back to the airbrush and just take a lighter shade of blue, and you can see it just adding a little more. Well, hold on, let me try this again. Make it a little lighter. There we go. See, when you think it's too light, you probably can crank it up more. And here I'm going to make it just a little darker. And these spots are kind of bugging me. So you can get back to your fill tool, and there's this fill and close one. It's this little lasso, and you could just fill in all these little spots. You just circle them and bam, colored in. Which I think is all right. There he is. But Superman in space, like this white background, not doing it for me. Let's do a colorful background here. Thinking like a sky, of course. Soup flies through the sky. What can I use? I'm going to use a paintbrush tool here. But which one? Got regular paint, watercolors. Oh yeah, let's try that one. It's kind of like lingering. I made it nice and big, but it's a little bit of a blotting one. Ooh, wow. It's slowing down too. Yeah, I try and drag it across, and it's just like this little spongy snake thing going on here. Yeah, but I can work with that. Different shades. It's a nice light blue. Fill in there a little bit. Try to get some light. I don't want too dark, but let's just see. We'll play with that. I think that's enough. There is a blending tool here. And I'm going to use I think there's a textured one. Make it big. See, it almost looks like a sponge. You just run it over, and look, the background starts blending in together with the different splotches of blue. Kind of making this one little cohesive thing. Look at that. Smoothing it out. So it doesn't look like a big mess. I mean, Soups could be on an alien planet. Well, an alien sky. He's flown all over the galaxy. And to infinite Earth. There we go. There we go. Just see, the background's a little more blended, but it's just too flat. So I am going to do a special brushes tool, and this is a dapple thing. Make it a little lighter. See, and it just a little dapple gives it something almost cosmic. But I know there is a. I'm looking for a cloud tool, but I don't think it's. Oh, there it is. Make this a little wider. There we go. Get a little clouds. Make it a little more bright up there, and just a hint down below. I was going to draw some flying lines, but you know what? I just like them sitting up there in space with these clouds. There you have it. Wow. This was a long one, but so worth it, right? My first drawing to color for you guys. My birthday gift to you all. Just little enhancements here, but I think we're good, man. I think we're good. Check him out, Superman. Well, yeah, let me know if you see the movie. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it this weekend. It is my birthday, but the allure of going to a movie on opening weekend has kind of lost its luster for me, because I just don't want to be in a very crowded theater. I will see it eventually. I have to see it on the big screen. And there you have it, Superman, the Man of Steel, in color. Hey, thank you all for joining me on this opening day of Superman and my birthday weekend. It's been a blast. I hope you enjoyed drawing and coloring with me. And we're going to go up, up, and away until the next video. Thanks again for watching. This is the artist always known as Alejandro's signing off. Keep creating.